Today we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of defined benefit plans. I'm not going to spend probably too much time on the pros because I think those are pretty self-evident, but certainly something we want to make sure that we discuss with you. The pros are very simple. I mean, these plans act like a 401k or an IRA or a SEP on steroids. If you're used to getting 20, 30, 40 grand into a SEP or a solo 401k, these plans are going to allow you to get easily six figures in most situations. As long as you're, in your mid 30s and older, they can allow you to get $100,000 plus into a plan. In fact, for a lot of people in their 60s, they can get $300,000 plus into a plan. If you're a husband and wife, or if you're looking at prior service, it's often a possibility to get, $500,000 into a plan. Since these plans are qualified plans, they're eligible for full tax deferral. So you get a tax deduction for all these contributions you put in. And of course, then it's taxable when you take it out on retirement. Typically upon retirement, you're going to convert this, roll it over into an IRA, and then you'll follow the IRA rules when you take it out. So again, one of the biggest pros is very large contributions. Another big advantage to our plans is that we give you target ranges. You're not locked into a set amount. While we could lock you into a set amount, say $100,000 a year or maybe $200,000 a year, that usually doesn't make a lot of sense because, these plans, just like any other business, they're gonna change. I mean, your business is gonna change or evolve. You're gonna have high income years, maybe other years that have lower income. Your income may bounce around a little bit. So because of that, we might give you a targeted range. So for example, let's say you make $500,000 this year and you'd like to get 150 grand into a plan. We might give you a range of, $75,000 on the high end to $150,000, or $75,000 on the low end to $150,000 on the high end. So we're going to give you a pretty nice range. You can pick and choose in that range. Maybe your income is high, but you want to buy a new car or you're building a new house. So therefore, you want to fund the low end of the range because you've got money going to other sources. But maybe, for example, you have your spouse who has a W-2 job and maybe got a very good bonus this year. So because of that, you can live off their income. And even though your income is maybe average for the year, you maybe want to hit the high end of the range because, again, you've got your spouse's bonus to be able to compensate. So having that range is a big benefit to you. Another big advantage to our plans are that you're not captive to any one custodian, and we don't manage your money. A lot of times we find competitors that will bundle their service with and their DB plans with with their investment portfolio. So you have an investment advisor that says, hey, you've got to work with us, and if you work with us, we'll get you a discount on a DB plan or something like that. While that may make the defined benefit plan cost rather cheap, you might be paying 1% of assets, and you might be happy doing that. But a lot of times people don't want to pay an asset charge or a fee, what they would call based on assets under management. So it makes a little bit more sense to have a structure in place where you can pay a reasonable amount for the actual defined benefit plan itself, but you're in control of your own assets. We allow all of that. We also allow our plans after so many years can be rolled over into IRAs. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of ability to essentially supercharge your investments up front. So the benefits and the pros to the plans are very self-evident. But let's now take a look at some of the cons to setting up these DB plans. I mean, as with any structure, there are some disadvantages, and we like to make sure that people are well aware of those up front because we don't want any surprises down the road. First of all, the biggest con to the plan is that they are permanent in nature. Remember, a 401k or a SEP, those are elective. You don't have to make contributions. You have the option to do it. Defined benefit plans are permanent in nature. And what that means is that you have to have them open for at least several years, okay? How long is several? Well, the IRS has not said what several means. Many people deem that to be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Really, there's no bright line test, but you want to assume that you're going to have these plans open for at least several years. And as long as that's the case, you don't have a problem. So look at your income this year, look at your income for the next couple years. If you feel that your income justifies it, that could make a lot of sense. If you need to terminate the plan after 3 years, no problem at all, or shouldn't be any problem at all with doing that, as long as you've got long-term intent going in. So permanency can be one of the issues. The second biggest issue can be with the permanency comes those mandatory contributions. So I just said that if you look forward over the next 3 years and you think your income is high enough, then that can make a lot of sense. But realize that we're going to give you a range, and you have to contribute at the low end of the range. If you don't, you've got excise tax, you've got some issues. So, if you're making $500,000, and we give you a range of 75 to 200 grand, you've got to contribute at that $75,000 level. But obviously you got a range up to 200,000. You also can contribute or add on top of that your 401k contribution. So there's a lot of ways to make these contributions flexible, but you need to make sure that you've got enough money, or you feel you're going to have enough money on hand to at least meet the minimum contributions. The third other downside to the plan is cost. I mean, I'll be truthful with you. 401ks, SEP plans, very simple and easy plans, very flexible, but you just don't get large contributions in. Again, if you're comfortable with 30, 40 grand, a solo 401k might be a great option. But if you want to get $100,000 plus into a plan, you're just not going to get there with the solo 401k. So moving up to a defined benefit plan or cash balance plan requires an actuary review, requires a lot more hand-holding along the way, and requires the ranges that we're going to do. And all that, of course, costs a little bit of money. Your typical plan with us is going to cost us $1,000, $1,500 to set up, but the annual actuarial work is going to run you a couple $1,000s a year and can go up from there. Just depends on the bells and whistles you've got in the plans, how it's customized, how many employees. Usually the employees are the biggest driver on the actual count to the plans or the actual cost of the plans. So assume that you're going to pay a couple $1,000s a year in annual administration. Obviously, that's a downside, but realize that anything you pay us is going to be tax deductible. So as a company-sponsored plan, fees that you pay Empyrean or any other plan provider are going to be tax deductible. So that obviously helps. But if you're going to get $100,000 into a plan, usually a couple grand in actuarial fees is usually not that big of a deal. But it is a big deal if it's 20 or 30 grand, that you want to get in. So typically doesn't make a lot of sense at those low income levels. But making sure you understand, that those cons or those downsides to the plans is very important. Make sure you clearly evaluate the pros, cons, the advantages, disadvantages of these plans to make sure you set up a plan structure that works for you and your business.